The land outside Salem doesn't forget. It waits. And on the west side of Thomas Harper's dream home, the plaster stays cold enough to frost your breath. You can nail a cross to it, but the cross will turn its back. Because some paths aren't on any map, they're older than prayer. And if you build across one, you haven't built a house. You've built a door. The question isn't whether something will come through. The question is, how long until it finds your children's names? My name is Thomas Harper. I haven't spoken my children's names aloud in 17 years. Not because I've forgotten them. Because I'm afraid they might answer. In the spring of 1995, I moved my family to a small town outside Salem, Massachusetts. Those who know their history will already feel the cold creeping up their spine. Salem needs no introduction. It wears its wickedness like a second skin. But we weren't in the town itself. We were 20 miles out, near a place the locals call Morrow's Hollow, flat farmland, old woods, and silence so thick you could chew it. I'd inherited money from my father's estate. Enough to buy land. Enough to build. The realtor was a woman named Esther Wainwright. She was old. Not elderly. Old, like she'd been there since before the town had a name. When I told her which plot I wanted, 30 acres off Cutler's Road with a pond on the western edge, she went still. Not the stillness of thought. The stillness of something listening. You want that land, she said. Not a question. Yes, ma'am. Good price. Good soil. She wrote the deed without another word. But as she handed it to me, her fingers brushed mine. They were cold. Not cool. Cold. Like she just pulled them from well water. Mr. Harper, she said, there's a path on that land. Runs west from the pond to the old tree line. Don't build on it, I laughed. I'm building a house, Mrs. Wainwright. There's no path, she just looked at me. There is. You'll see it when the light is wrong. Leave it alone. I didn't ask what she meant. I wish I had. We broke ground in June. I built the house myself with help from my brother, Paul, and a few local men. 2 stories. Southern exposure. A wraparound porch. The pond sat exactly where I wanted it, west of the house, close enough to see from the kitchen window. But there was something strange about that pond. On hot July days, when the air was thick with humidity, the water stayed cold. Not cool cold. You could stand at the edge and feel it breathing out, like a mouth exhaling from deep underground. My wife, Sarah, noticed it first. Thomas, she said one evening, the water's moving. I looked. The surface was still. Glass still. I don't see anything. Not the surface, she whispered. Underneath. Something's down there. I told her it was fish. Turtles. The wind. She didn't argue. But she didn't agree either. We finished the frame by August. That's when the trouble started. The west wall wouldn't stay standing. 3 times we raised it. 3 times we came back the next morning to find it leaning, cracked, compromised. The foreman, a grizzled man named Roy Buckner, pulled me aside. Mr. Harper, he said, I've been building houses 40 years. This ain't settling. This ain't bad materials. This is something else. What's something else? He scratched his beard. Looked at the wall. Looked at me. You got a priest in the family? I told him we were God-fearing people. We'd had the land blessed before breaking ground. Roy just shook his head. Blessings don't stick to some ground, Mr. Harper. Some ground is already claimed. We moved the wall 4 feet east. It held. I should have asked why. We moved in October. Sarah, the kids, Caleb 12 and little Ruth 9, and me. Paul stayed with us the first week to help unpack. The house was beautiful. Everything I dreamed. But from the first night, we noticed the cold. Not the whole house. Just the west side. The wall we'd moved. It seeped cold like a tombstone seeps frost. You could stand with your back to it and feel your breath mist. Sarah hung a crucifix on that wall. The next morning, it was facing the plaster. She hung it again. Same thing. She didn't tell me until the third time. "Thomas," she said, her voice small, "something doesn't want the cross there." I told her it was the nails. Old plaster. Gravity. She looked at me with eyes that said she knew I was lying to myself. Winter came early that year. November brought frost. December brought silence. And then, just before Christmas, the water in the walls started dripping. Drip, drip, drip. All night. Every night. We checked every pipe. Called a plumber from Salem. He found nothing. No leaks. No moisture. Just the sound of water falling inside the walls, steady as a pulse. Caleb started sleepwalking. I'd find him standing at the west window at 2 a.m., staring at the pond. His lips would be moving, but no sound came out. When I touched his shoulder, he'd turn with eyes that didn't know me. "She's singing," he said once. Just once. "Who's singing, son?" "The lady in the water. She says the path is closed. She says we blocked her door." I carried him back to bed. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, Ruth asked me a question that stopped my heart. "Daddy, who's the old woman who comes to my room?" I knelt down. Took her hands. "What old woman, baby?" "The one in the wet dress. She stands in the corner and watches me sleep. She says she's waiting for Mama to untie the string." Sarah was in the kitchen. I heard her drop a pot. That afternoon, I called Father O'Connell from the parish in town. He came with holy water and prayers. He walked every room. He blessed every corner. But when he reached the west wall, he stopped. "Thomas," he said quietly, "what's on the other side of this wall?" "The pond. And beyond that, the old tree line." He pressed his palm to the plaster. Held it there. His face went pale. "There's a path out there. An old one. Older than this town. Older than the church." He looked at me. "You built across it. I didn't see any path. Not with your eyes, you didn't." He lowered his hand. It was shaking. I've felt this before. In the old country. In places where the land remembers. There's something that travels this path every night. From the water to the woods. And now it can't pass. Then it goes around. It tried. You built the wall. It tried again. You moved the wall. Now it's angry, Thomas. It's not a demon. It's not a ghost. It's something older. Something that was here before we had names for things. He left me a small iron cross. Told me to nail it to the west wall and never remove it. I did. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. I thought we were safe. I was wrong. January 12th. I'll never forget the date. I'd been burning brush in the field behind the house. The fire was low, just embers, when I went to bed. Around midnight, Sarah shook me awake. "Thomas." The west wall. I stumbled to the window. The cross was glowing. Not burning, glowing like iron pulled from a forge. And through the wall, I heard it. Scratching. Slow. Deliberate. Like fingernails on slate. Scritch scratch. Scritch scratch. It moved from one end of the wall to the other. Then stopped. I pulled on my boots and grabbed a flashlight. Went outside. The cold hit me like a physical blow. The air smelled strange, like stagnant water and burnt matches. I walked to the west wall, shined the light. There, in the foundation, pressed into the concrete from the other side, was a handprint. Small, old, a woman's hand, and written above it in letters that looked scratched from within, "Let us in." I ran back inside, bolted the door, sat with my back to it until dawn. The next day, I burned that cross. I don't know why. Panic, maybe. Or maybe something told me to. That night, Caleb died. He'd gone to the pond after dinner. I didn't see him go. Sarah thought he was in his room. By the time we realized, it was too late. They found him at the water's edge, face down, his clothes dry, no water in his lungs. The coroner said heart failure. A boy of 12. Heart failure. I held his funeral on a gray January morning. We buried him in the churchyard, not on our land. Sarah wouldn't let me near the pond after that. She wore a black ribbon on her wrist, a promise, she said, to keep evil away. She'd gotten it from a traveling preacher who'd passed through town. He'd tied it on her himself. "Never take this off," he told her. "Not for anything." She didn't. For 13 days we mourned. For 13 days we didn't go near the west wall. For 13 days I told myself it was over. On the 13th night, Ruth woke us screaming. She was standing in the corner of her room, facing the wall. But her body was wrong, twisted, bent backward at the spine, her head touching the floor behind her feet. Her mouth moved, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. It was old, waterlogged, hungry. "You blocked my door. You took my path. Now I take your blood," Sarah screamed. I grabbed Ruth, tried to straighten her, but her body was rigid as stone. She turned her head, all the way around like an owl, and smiled at me with teeth that had grown long in the dark. The boy was first. The girl is next. And then the mother. And then I threw holy water in her face. It sizzled. Ruth collapsed. We carried her to bed. Stayed with her all night. In the morning, she was gone. We found her at the old tree line. The path Esther Wainwright had warned me about. Ruth was lying in the center of it, her body arranged like an offering, her eyes open and staring at a sky she couldn't see. I broke then. Something in me cracked and never healed. I stopped praying, stopped hoping. I just existed, waiting for whatever came next. But Sarah fought. She found a woman, an old woman. They called her Granny Moore, and she lived in a shack at the edge of the drowned lands, swampland west of Salem, where nothing grew and nothing went. Sarah went to her alone. I was too far gone to follow. Granny Moore listened. Then she spoke. "You built on the Walker's Road, the thing that moves between water and death. It's old, older than your Christ, older than my people. It doesn't hate you. It doesn't love you. You're just in the way." She gave Sarah a small bundle wrapped in red cloth. "Put this against the west wall, inside the house, and don't open it. No matter what you hear." Sarah did it. That night, Granny Moore came to our house. She brought 4 iron nails, 4 clay pots, a black rooster. She stood at the west wall and spoke words I didn't recognize. A language older than English, older than anything. Then she took the bundle from the wall, carried it to the pond, and threw it in. The water boiled. Not with heat, with cold. Steam rose from the surface, but it was freezing steam, frost forming on the banks. And from deep below, we heard a sound I will carry to my grave. A scream. But not human. It was the scream of something that had never been human, never wanted to be, and now knew it was trapped. Granny Moore slit the rooster's throat, filled the clay pots with blood, dipped the nails in it. Then she walked to the four corners of our property and drove each nail into the ground with a rock. When she finished, she turned to us. It's sealed. For now. But the path is still there. It always will be. Don't build on it again. Don't let anyone else build on it. And if you ever untie that ribbon on your wrist, Mrs. Harper, it will find a way back in. Sarah clutched her wrist, nodded. Granny Moore left without another word. We sold the house a month later. Took a loss. I didn't care. We moved to a different state. Changed our names. Tried to forget. But some things don't forget. Sarah kept the ribbon on her wrist for 17 years. Never took it off. Not in the shower. Not in sleep. It grew frayed, faded, but she never removed it. Until last Tuesday. She was gardening. The ribbon caught on a rose bush. Snapped. That night, I heard dripping in the walls. Drip, drip, drip. I didn't sleep. Last night, I found Sarah standing at the bedroom window at 2 a.m., staring out at nothing. She's back, Sarah whispered. The lady in the wet dress. She says the path is open again. She says she's waited long enough. This morning, there was a handprint on our front door. Small. Old. A woman's hand. And written beneath it, in condensation that shouldn't exist in July, I remember your name, Thomas Harper. This is the story of the Harper family of Salem. It is not a ghost story. It is a geography lesson, a warning that some land was never meant to be owned, only borrowed, and the interest comes due in blood. The most dangerous evil does not lurk in shadows. It walks a path it has walked for centuries, and when you build your home across that path, it does not go around. It goes through. So listen closely, family. If you buy land and the price seems too low, if the realtor's hands are cold, if the local old woman warns you about a path you cannot see, walk away. Some ground remembers. Some doors, once opened, stay open forever. If you have a story that haunts you, send it to contact.dreadcodex@gmail.com. Your truth becomes our tale. Your likes and comments keep these stories alive. Until next time, may your walls stay standing. May your paths stay clear. May the things that walk in the dark walk around you. Good night.